I'm just going to go to full aperture. Also, I want to point out here something. If I go to the window UV texture editor, you will see the actual UVs, how are they hard, like so. And this is because Mudbox, when it divided an object, there's an option that says smooth UVs or not when in that subdivision. And I did not choose to smooth them because I know when it's the information gets baked, it will be fine. So the most common mistake I see people do, for example, if I do this and do polygon, or actually relax, pin the borders, so they think, oh, that will give me a better UVs here because now my UVs are smooth. However, if I render the object now, let's keep this, everything will be messed up, or the UV extraction. Let me just make sure that I go undo. Here you go. That UV extraction, the displacement and normal map extraction was done based on that particular UVs and how they were. So even though that you think it will be better if you divide them, you should not. And you'll see here, even though that the UVs were looking hard, at the render time they're still circular because that object was baked according to that particular level. So therefore, when I'm using this particular displacement and pin and normal maps, I'm using with the proper OBJ or the proper level that I extracted Mudbox from. Even though that seems to be a simple workflow, however, lots of people will still get this wrong. So that's why I thought I should point it out for you guys. Alright, so let's hook everything back together. I'm just going to reconnect everything again via the mill script because I did a lot of changes and I want to make sure that I go back to the original. So here's the displacement. I'm grabbing the normal, ambient occlusion. And it doesn't matter which one I pick first. The mill script will go through it all and will align it for me. This one I'm going to take the TGA bump and the color. And I have a spec as well. And I might as well in the bump I create this 0.2 values. So I don't have to readjust it, create and close, and now I'll have the shader assigned. Okay, so I have everything added in correctly. I might even go to the Hypershade so we look at it and see what's happening in the other side, which is the color, because we didn't talk about that. So let's reduce this a little bit. So for the color, I added the ambient occlusion as a multiplier on it. That means it will, if I disable this for a second, or actually let's cut this to directly to color. You'll see here there's a big difference actually. Let me do it one more time. So I'm rendering. I forgot to keep the image. Keep that and go back here and render one more time. Alright, so without and with. So having it with, it just adds more depth to it, more definition. So I'm just keeping that as well. Now it's just a matter of adjusting lights. So I'm just going to close that. Or actually, it's just a good idea to start saving our file. To add light, I'm going to create a couple of area lights. And usually my current workflow is I like to start with really big area lights. And maybe you can move them a little bit further away. This way you can have an even distribution of the light. So sometimes, for example, when we're working like this and I can't see the light, even though if I select the camera, exaggerate in the clip plane, I'll do that for all of them, I still can't see the light. And for some people that might be a little bit of a problem because you say, hey, I still can't see it. And that's because of the actual image plane that is looking up and down. So for example, if I select the camera, this where the plane sits off the top. So if I move this up a little bit, because it should be higher than the actual light, right? So this is pretty much how I adjust it. Now for my light, I'm going to go to the mint array section. I'm going to use light shape, and by default it creates only 8 samples. So I'm just going to leave that just so you can see the comparison. And let's create some shadow. Create ray trace shadow. And just everything by default, and render this. Okay, it's not there yet. Obviously lots of things need to be tweaked. The first thing I'm going to do is I need to put something that catch that shadow so I can see what's going on with it. So I'm just going to create a plane and go to the input node, move it somewhere here, and give that 4 divisions. move it down a little bit. Let's get these verts. Pretty much what I'm doing, I'm just creating the soft edge here. And if now I can use the 3 button to smooth it out. Pretty much what I've done is I use the option in the attribute editor that is here, smooth mesh. Let's rotate it down just a slight. Now let's render this. Okay, so now we start to see the artifacts that's happened here at the render, and that's because the actual light doesn't have enough samples. So at least I want to have, sorry, the 128 is here and in here. So it's getting nicer now with the increase of samples, but of course that will affect our render time. So I'm just gonna, for now, I'm just gonna reduce this a little bit to be 96. And I need another light as well, so I'm just gonna move that down towards the bottom a little bit. And I also might need a backlight, so something to bounce out of here. So I'm just gonna, for that, I'm gonna create a directional light. For directional light, scaling is not a big deal because it's a parallel array of lights. However, with the area lights, scaling will change lighting. So now we're starting to see the highlights that's coming from this area, from the light down at the bottom, which is the bounce here that we were looking for. Let's add an additional coloring information to the final gather. The default values is a little bit high for testing, so I'm reducing everything to half, and keep that image. Actually, while we add it, let's change the color. Assign new material, Lambert, put a ramp, and get something like towards the color of the ocean. Okay, so let's render that image. I was pretty much testing on a small area, so I don't have to wait for the whole image to be compiled. And just remember, when you're using Final Gather, some of these color information that's going to be in the back is going to bounce out to us, so we might get a tint of bluish here, which is exactly what we're looking for, because we want to simulate something closer to what the animal will be as in the environment. Obviously, this is a fantasy creature, so we're not really restricted to that, but a little bit of realism will go a long way. Let's do some minor adjustment here for this light. It's a little bit strong. So we're going to reduce to 0.5, and I will also reduce this just a tad. Now let's render. Okay, it's slightly better. I still need to adjust a few things here. Matter of fact, let's put a SSS shader. We're going to put the MISS fast simple, and let's see how the default will look like. Remember, there's no displacement. So here's a good start. Actually, it's not bad at all. I can start adjusting now the SSS itself. So let's change the front color to be something a little bit neutral. The back, let's make it a little bit prominent. The front weight, and let's increase the back here. So I'm just make sure that both of them get calculated to be 1 as well. And for this, we might even increase the intensity back to 1 because I want it to go through the skin itself. Okay, so now we start seeing the difference here, that we have the front SSS is here, and this is the back. So I just wanted to make sure that I have something prominent, something that we can actually see. Alright, let's hook up my shaders again. This is the SSS. Actually, let's enable the input and output connections. So for here, let's put to be this the front color. Let's hook up the displacement as well. So the displacement that goes to the CSG node itself, which is this one. So that means I need to hook it to this shader, SG, right here. So I'm just going to connect it here and say default. I know this might be a little bit confusing, but if you just go through it step by step, you'll understand which one is going where. So for the SSS itself, there's a section that says bump. Okay, I'm starting to lose track, so select both. Show input and output connections. Graph, rearrange graph. There we go. And it seems that I forgot to bring my normal maps, so I can reconnect them here manually. But let me grab these guys first and connect them to the bump. So the only thing I'm missing here is the spec, which is specular color. And let me reduce the shyness a little bit. Show input connection, output connection for just for the SS shader. These are the only thing we're missing now is the normal map. So edit, duplicate shading connection. Now grab, this is the -1 UV1. This is the normal map. And I need a bump 2D node. But this time I want it to be tangent. The thing with the bump is that you have to connect the normal map first, and then you have the 2 bump 2D nodes, middle mouse on top of it, and say out normal, and right display show hidden to normal camera. So this is how the connection was done pretty much under the hood when I did it for you, but I just did it manually. Let's render the scene. So we're getting a little bit closer. We have the subsurface scattering obvious in here. We have the displacement, normal map as well. However, color, that is not very obvious, because if we go to the Hypershade again, I'm just going to grab the same color value that's going to the front SSS to put it in the diffuse. Actually, let's grab it without the ambient inclusion. That might give us a better color. Render again. Now we have better color variation right in here. I just want to point out now, because of all the addition that we keep adding and the calculation of SSS, our render time jumped to 1 minute and 41 seconds. Let's close this. Time to save. While we have the graph open, I want to point out here the MISS Fast L map node. There's an option that says include indirect lighting. So if you include that, that means it will take in effect the final gather contribution that might be coming from here. The background color is black, so you might not get anything that's appearing in here, but it might bounce on this background. So let's keep this image and render that and see how we get. It's a very slight difference. You might see it here at the back fin. Anyways, I think I should stop tweaking at this point because I need to create different layers. So let's go to our rendering, and I'm gonna change my quality frame buffer to RGBA 32 floating point. I want to make sure that, because I'm going to be using the passes system along with the 32, so I want to make sure that I have something that will accommodate that. I can use stiffs, but for this exercise I'm going to use OpenEXR, and I'm going to add a couple of passes. One is the ambient occlusion, and the other one is the camera depth. Create and close. Add these two guys here. For the ambient occlusion, you want to make sure that the ambient occlusion is turned on, and just by adding the rays of 256, that's a lot of rays, so I'm just going to reduce that to 128. Give it a name, and let's have a quick render and see how it will look like. So let's have a quick look at the passes. The depth came out empty, and I know why, so I'm going to fix that. And the ambient occlusion came out as what we expected. However, the ambient occlusion, for when it's rendering the passes, it came out and it actually took the background, and this is not what I want, so I need to fix these two passes. But these can be easily fixed by, let me remove this, and I'm going to create a custom pass color, create and close, and I'm actually going to disable the ambient occlusion because it takes a little bit longer than I want. And for the depth, let me remove that depth actually and get camera depth remap. That's a custom color. For the custom color, we're going to call it custom AO, and I'm going to go to my Hypershade, use my fast shader, right to custom buffer, and what I'm going to say, I want to take out and go value to go to the custom, right to custom buffer, and this buffer we're going to choose it to go to the custom AO. And for the color, we're going to use the old MIB ambient occlusion. It's going to be under texture. Put that in here, and yeah, let's use the default for now. Let's see what we got. So time to save as. Let's see how the passes look like. So this is much better because I didn't want the background. I can modify this a little bit to get a better quality because 16 was a little bit low. And let's do the depth remapped. Here you go. So let's increase this 128. So let's look at the depth mass. So it looks better now because I have more variation of colors between black and white. However, what's What I'm noticing right now is that background, the white of the background, actually I was hoping it would be black, but then I realized I have a material, or actually a surface, that sits behind the fish, and that's what's happening with render passes. It calculates the pass according to the shader level, so I need to re-rig that. I'm going to go to my render layers, and I'm just going to create a dummy layer, so it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going to create it and delete it afterwards. And go to the attribute editor, and under the layer tab, I'm going to go to preset, choose luminous depth. All I wanted actually is just to create this shading network, which is here. That's the only reason I did that render layer. So I'm just going to remove that layer. I don't need it anymore. All I wanted again is just that particular shading network. I could have created from scratch, but to be honest with you, I just wanted to show you how to do it in case if you just want to grab it. All right, so the passes now, I don't need the remap. I'm just going to create a custom color. And this guy, we're going to call him custom color depth. And we add it down. So we have two custom passes. Now we need to hook it the same way we did with the ambient occlusion. So for the miscellaneous, I'm going to create a 2 color buffer and the SSS shader to output to the pass-through. So I'm just going to choose evaluation pass-through. And here I want to go to custom depth. And the only thing left to do is to connect the surface shader to the right 2 buffer. So if I try to drag this, it will open the connection editor, and all I want is the out color to the color. And we are set to go. So let's render that one more time. And now that's exactly what I was hoping for. So I just wanted a black background, so this way when I try to take this to toxic and I want to control the Z depth, I can control it via these colors only. I don't want the background to be influenced as well. So time to save my scene. Actually, let's render it a little bit bigger. Do render, batch render. Once the rendering is done, I'm going to launch Toxic and compile all these images in there. In Toxic, if we want to bring our images, we need to create a new comp. So I'm just going to create new, and we're going to call it comp 9. Yeah, sure. For the EXR file, since it has embedded channels in it, you can do it multiple ways. We can do file, import, and locate my render, and this is the fish file. I'm just going to say import all channels. Once I do that, you will see the EXR file has the channels that I want, which is the color, the master beauty, and then the ambient occlusion as you see it here, and then the custom depth. But just because of this example, and I want to make sure that you see what I'm doing, I'm just going to create them as separate images. So I'm just going to do here image import, and I'm going to create, and I'm going to repeat this a couple of times. Just Control C, Control V. Pretty much that's what I did. If I go to this one, and I'm going to go to the options section and the channels, and I'm going to choose the AO. And for this one, same thing, I'm going to choose the Z depth. Pretty much that's the only reason I got them as separate nodes, so you guys can see them when I'm using my comp. You can see which node is going to where. Let's start by these two, which are straightforward. I'm using my tilde key to go to my tool section. I'm going to use a comp, blend on comp node. And this one I'm going to go to the front. This one is going to go to the back, and this one obviously going to go to the output. So by default, once I do that, you will see that it takes the top node and slap it right on top of the bottom one without any modification. But you can change that behavior in the node itself under the blend on comp section. And what we want in the blend is we want to have a multiply. So that means it takes all the white out and leaves the black. For the front gain, if you think it's too much, you can lower the opacity a little bit. So again, this is the ambient occlusion, this is the color path, and I added a blend mode node in here. So for the Z depth, we're going to use another comp node, which is the blur. Just going to add that in here. And since this is the out from these two nodes, I'm just going to put them like that. And I'm going to take the output to be the image itself of these two comps to be the image, and the output of this to be modulation. Let's connect this back here. And let's go to the blur itself. If you change the blur in here under the blur section, you will be adding a motion blur on everything. But you need to go to the modulation itself because it's controlled by the Z depth. And let's give it something exaggerated here. Let's go a little bit further because I want to show you why I'm doing this. So you see now it's here, this hard edge. This can be controlled by increasing the maximum radius. Maybe something like this, 15. Now I can lower this to be something more reasonable. And since we are using the Z depth, which is the luma, as our channel, so that's why it's coming correct, this is the icon drop here, and you just pick where do you want to have the area of the image that is in focus. So if I pick in here, you will see it created this in focus. And of course, if I want to do that, I can change that behavior just by clicking where the eye drop in here. So that is pretty much what we wanted to do at the end, just comp the image in our compositing package. All we have to do now is to render this image. As you can see, we did multiple steps working from Mudbox into Maya into Toxic, and at the final we have a nice image that we can use in either animation or a print. And this is with the help of Maya Entertainment Suite. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this session, and I'm looking forward to talk to you more.